What if I told you we could simplify the world into two basic types of thinking, and by becoming aware of them and consciously practicing both throughout the day, we can increase our problem solving abilities? We can. Um, there are two very basic types of thinking when it comes down to it. The problem is we kind of think of one as the default and are unaware of the other and its importance. Okay? These two types of thinking are convergent versus divergent thinking. Okay, quick definition. Convergent thinking is the kind of thinking where we do most of the day in school. Okay? Convergent thinking takes a collection of facts or data and drives towards one correct solution. Okay, so if you think about most of the thinking that we're asked to do in a school day, it all becomes about that correct answer. Think about standardized testing, SAT, multiple choice tests. All these things are kind of like training our minds to think convergently, right? Where the objective is to drive down into one correct answer, which is fantastic. We need this type of an analytical, linear thinking throughout the day and throughout our lives. It's extremely crucial, right? But here's the problem. Here at NuMinds, we feel that convergent thinking has been way overemphasized, and as a result, our students walk out of school thinking that everything is to be attacked convergently. Well, what's the opposite? What's the antidote? At NuMinds, we put a huge effort into the antidote, which is the opposite type of thinking, divergent thinking. Okay? Quick definition. Divergent thinking is where you start with a single prompt or a single problem, and the idea is to generate as many possible answers as you can. All right? The difference between convergent and divergent thinking has a lot to do with the linearity. So convergent thinking is about a linear process, where divergent thinking is holistic, spontaneous, free-flowing, random. The idea is to generate as many possibilities as you can without judgment, right? It doesn't mean you're not going to assess or analyze the possibilities later, but by shutting down that piece of the process, you're essentially blocking down half the possibilities. Okay, so what can we do to kind of balance this out? Well, number one, you've just become aware of it. So I want a couple of examples. There are situations throughout the day when you want one or the other, so both are completely valid. That's not our argument. But for example, if I go to the pharmacy and I turn in the prescription for grandma's medicine, I probably want that pharmacist to be using convergent thinking. Let's not experiment with different ingredients for grandma's medicine, right? Okay. On the other hand, if I am writing a novel or a poem, I don't think there's one correct answer. I think I'm going to have to generate many possible ideas. So any creative endeavor, throughout the day we're making decisions that don't necessarily have one correct answer, that we have to maybe listen to intuition and generate some different possibilities and then assess and choose one. So if you develop your divergent thinking muscle, you're going to be able to think improvisationally, extemporaneously, and be able to adapt and adjust throughout the day. Okay, so down below we have a couple links for you to some resources. This is a shortcut. So 3 resources we're going to link you to increase your divergent thinking opportunities. If you're a classroom teacher, these are things you can use very directly with your students. I've used these with kindergartners all the way through adults in educational settings. If you are a parent, you can also use these at home, or if you are just an ambitious student, you can even print them off and use them yourself. Okay, so number 1 resource is some divergent question stems. Now these are based on some research, and what these are adaptable question stems where you can plug in whatever topic is relevant, and these are open-ended, forced perspective type questions that are going to really force you to generate divergent solutions, okay, as opposed to convergent questions that are going to be driving down to one correct solution. Okay, so no answer key, right? Okay, the second resource I'm going to link for you is a system called the 6 Thinking Hats. Dr. Edward de Bono was a genius in divergent thinking. He called it lateral thinking. So we have a 1-page resource on the 6 Thinking Hats. It's a quick shortcut. If you have questions about it, reach out to us. It's one of our favorite topics. We do it in teacher trainings all the time, parent workshops, and even here in our own office, in our own admin, we use the 6 Thinking Hats quite a bit to problem solve and think laterally. Okay, the third resource we're going to link for you is a 1-page cheat sheet on mind mapping. We love mind mapping. It's probably the most classic divergent thinking tool there is, where you start with a central topic or idea in the center, and you literally map the ideas out radially. Okay, this is based on a lot of research and thinking about the processes of the brain and how mind mapping kind of taps into the brain's potentials and processes. Okay, all right, so that was the nitty gritty. 2 types of thinking. Now you're aware of both. You want to balance them out. If you have a student in school, then they're spending about 90% of their time doing convergent thinking. It might vary from school to school and teacher to teacher, but it's definitely on the convergent thinking side. So this is a little nudge to make sure you're reinforcing and nurturing the divergent thinking muscle as well. That's what those resources are for. And reach out if you have questions about any of the resources, and think divergently, please.